principles that we learn and practice, the connection we try to keep, the remembrance of our true nature. And at the same time, we are here in our life experiencing this conditional reality we exist within. And so I think it's important to realize how vital or important that doorway of our love is in being able to allow for the flow of our spirit, of our connection, of our essence and energy to make its way into the world, and not only make its way in, but governed by that love. So as it arrives, it's sort of wrapped in a package that is easily felt and experienced by others. I like to look at the chakras sometimes as a reference, having the 7 chakras, 3 above and 3 below the center point of the heart. I see the top 3 of our chakras being our divinity chakras, or our connection, our insight, our expression chakra. And as that inspiration flows into our heart, it touches into and allows it to flow down through our humanity chakras, these lower chakras. So our higher self, our connection to source, is moving in and through us. We're experiencing it in the higher aspects of us through our unconditional love of our heart and into our lower or our expression chakras of our humanity in the world. And so our heart acts almost like a governor to a certain degree to the flow of our spirit and our expression in the world. And for that, it becomes very important to our healing, because when we have that flow happening, it carries from us what no longer serves, it brings to us what we need, and it brings us to that place of inspiration we're able to see more clearly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And it is that, cessation or blockage from our human perspective of that flow that is the healing.
Yes, and we have the opportunity at any point to bring what we need to it in order for it to be what is needed for the wholeness to return. I mentioned unconditional, and gosh, for me, if you think the word love, the one thing everybody's looking for, whether it's in a relationship within themselves, within the world, everybody's looking for unconditional love, because it's the very state by which freedom exists that we can surrender into. So often I have a little Shih Tzu, and when I pick up Harvey and I hold him in my arms close to my chest, he doesn't set me free. His love doesn't set me free. But the love that I experience in that unconditional connection that I have with him is some of the most warm and tender moments that I have in my life. I'm not sure if my wife will be listening to this radio broadcast, but I want to assure her also that when I hold her, I have a similar experience. My wife and I actually have this conversation all the time. We try to decide whether we love each other or the dog more. But you get my point. Dog spelled backwards is God, and
right.
all of that kind of thing. So a perfect example of allowing ourselves to be in that state of love that we are unconditionally. Pets are such a perfect example of being unconditional love as we're with them and them with us.
Yes, I love that example, and I think of young babies too that are just pure. The innocence. They're just being who they are. And your dog, Harvey, is being who he is. And what I got from what you were just sharing, which is beautiful, is he is reflecting to you, mirroring back to you the truth of who you are. And it's like, oh, yeah, right. Thank you, Harvey. Thank you, my dear wife. Thank you, little baby. Thank you, sunshine. Whatever is reminding us, oh, yeah, that's right. I'm love. I was temporarily forgetting.
Oh, and the beauty of that, in that statement you just made, Mitch, we're using examples like babies and dogs and wives, the sunshine, and so many other things. Our brothers and sisters that we walk through our lives with, people we know and we don't know, are the exact same thing. And that as we're remembering it within us, as we're being that, and we're being that with them, as our dogs or our wives or other things remind us, we can be that shining bright example that not only brings healing to our own being, to our own self, but as we are that with others, it ignites the awakening, the remembrance, the awareness of what love truly can bring to the world. The song, All We Need Is Love. Love between and among us, all of us sharing it, being it, not only brings each individual to wholeness, to freedom, to balance, but that love can then release the limitations and the conditions of the world to allow it to begin to come together in wholeness, for it to be balanced more, to have the freedom that we seek to have each and every day. It's an inside-out kind of a experience as we make our way through life.
Mm-hmm. And what you're sharing. Thank you. And what you're sharing, Jim, reminds me of the classic example. You're driving on the highway, and someone cuts you off. Well, you can, cuss the person. You can bless the person. And hopefully, you at least get to that latter point after maybe verbalizing or feeling something. But it ultimately, to me, it's about remembering that they too are love, that if we're all, emanations of the same one source, then we're all sparkles of love. We're all these crystals of love. And they may have forgotten in that moment because they're racing to get somewhere, whatever is going on in their minds. And if we can invite ourselves to remember that when we're in difficult situations or dealing with different people that we consider difficult, we can ask ourselves a different question. Instead of, why is that person being a such and such? Instead of asking that, we can raise that vibration dramatically by asking a question such as, how is love showing up here? Or how is that person reflecting God back to me? Or how is this an invitation for me to reconnect with who I am and invite that other person to reconnect with who they are?
Yes, it's an interesting place. I always term the definition of enlightenment as being able to drive for a period of 1 hour on the interstate in complete peace. A joke maybe for some, but I'd like to be in the car with a monk or a very devoted master who's having to make his way through the traffic. I've gone from whatever I used to be and whatever I used to do to having conversations with the people who I'm driving with. Mm-hmm. It's the small pedal on the right. If you'll place your foot upon it and push it down, it will make your car go a little bit faster. I'm being lighthearted in this, but yes, it's who we are able to bring to the situation. And something that comes to my mind when you mention that, talking about unconditional and our universal nature, you would think, well, how's that person in that car is going to even know anything about what I'm experiencing or the love that I might be sharing or seeing in them? We are completely connected. We are one in that love that we are on a universal level. And we sometimes get caught up in our own private experience of it, and yet it's important to recognize that each moment that we are loved, not only do we bring what we need to ourselves, not only do we bring it to one another, but it's the accumulative expression of love within the world that makes the love the world has and is and expresses and experiences what it is. And so we contribute on many different levels, and one of them is for ourselves and for each other, but even more on a universal level, a worldly level.
Absolutely, and there's a lot going on our wonderful planet and in our world right now. And as you've mentioned off air, it's accelerating right now, and I totally agree. And it can rock our worlds, whatever the situations are. Personal or experiencing something across the planet, because we're so connected technologically now. And it really is an invitation, I believe, ultimately to, again, go back to the first thing that we were talking about, Jim, knowing the truth of what's happening, that yes, there can be destruction, there can be horrific things on the planet, but really what is being called for, what is being released ultimately by that, so that we can, as Marianne Williamson's book would say, return to love.
It's interesting to bring that into perspective, too, because just as we see distractions in our own personal lives, we can see things that are going on in the world that really are calling for love, as the Course in Miracles speaks of. And so we can bring that love to it. Coming to the place where we're going to have to bring our conversation about healing and love and healing with the heart to a close. But I want to thank you for being here, and that we both have the opportunity to participate in, myself as the pastor, you as a congregant at Sarasota Center of Light. We at the center are focused on holding a space for people to heal. That's a big part of who we are. Holding a sanctuary for people to be able to experience their love. And in that, being able to heal themselves, each other, and come together in fellowship to make a difference for each other and for the world. Classes, workshops, services, all kinds of things going on there. And so anyone who would want to know a little bit more about what's happening at the center could certainly go to the website at www.sarasotacenteroflight.com. If you're wanting to connect with Mitch, you could connect with him at a voice with spirit, all one word, at yahoo.com. And if you're wanting to connect with me, you can certainly contact me through email at revjimtoole@gmail.com. Again, through the center, you can reach either one of us and who we are and what we have to offer in support of you healing with your heart and knowing who we are. Thank you, Mitch, for being here. Thank you all for listening. Everyone have a beautiful and wonderful day, and God bless.